Welcome to the NOCLIP Awards. I'm your host, Chad Ruthermond.
I'm supporting actor Andy Kinnick, introducing special guest star
JJ Artemis. Back at you again, coming downtown.
I don't think they have a crowd large enough at the Oscars to make that noise.
That's because we're not at the Oscars, we're downtown. We're the NOCLIP Awards.
NOCLIP Awards.
The off-Broadway Oscars.
In the streets.
Yes.
Where true might is chosen.
Well,
truer words have never been spoken.
Once again, we're recording at night, the only appropriate time to host an award show. And we have our envelopes and our sword in front of us. We'll have a lot less Foley for you because I think our setup is now a little bit too fragile to be slamming this thing around.
You might hear the sword anyway if the weird street hobos come to attack us.
That's true.
Trying to interrupt the NOCLIP Awards, as they do every year.
Well, then you hear the sword clanging sound because the hobos always bring their own swords.
They're all pirates, really.
We'll make more work for Chad and insist that he put in sword sound effects.
Seems reasonable. It'll just be one sword sound effect repeated over and over and over again.
That
I wouldn't
sounds
have it
fun
any
to
other
listen
way.
to and good. Hi, audience. I'm glad to be back.
And we have 15 hot new categories for you. We have 8 hot new categories and 7 old stale categories.
My skin.
That we're revisiting.
They're good though. You'll like them because we
Yeah.
also like them, and you like what we like, sheeple.
And we're starting right now.
All right, start us off, Chad.
What is the first category?
The first category, the first returning category. Perfect for the Switch.
An all-time classic category.
the best category.
And the nominees this year are having a lot of trouble with the envelope. Just gonna rip it open.
Just like
we
they do
need
in the
that
Oscars.
Foley, yeah.
Yeah, not even fucking around with this one.
Mm-hmm.
We have Device 6, Return of the Obra Dinn, and Accounting Plus.
Ooh.
I don't think... Okay, so I voted, in this instance, for Return of the Obra Dinn, and I don't think that I've... In the 1 year history of the NOCLIP Awards, have I disagreed more with the two other things.
Return of the Obra Dinn's already on the Switch. It is not eligible for the
When
category.
did it get put on the Switch?
Right after we talked about it.
Yep, almost immediately afterwards. Suck our balls.
Wow.
Loser.
All
One
right,
of the ones you hate is going to win.
That's sexual bad. All right, who's next?
I nominated Device 6 because I thought the interesting screen orientations would be really cool to do in handheld mode. I went out there with it because you'd only be able to play it in handheld mode.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go with it anyway because I feel like it would be a better it would enhance it from the phone version, I think, to have it on a bigger screen.
So what would happen when you docked it?
It would say, "Get the fuck out of here. This game isn't perfect for the Switch. Andy loses." Is what it would say.
That is 100% what it would say.
You could probably make it work by having the screen be able to be flipped with the shoulder buttons.
Mm-hmm. This category is not what would be best on the Switch. It would be what is perfect for the Switch, for the Switch, which means you have to take advantage of all of the Switch's features to qualify for the category. And if you truly believed that the best you could do was this Device 6, you should have wrote in a blank ballot because you knew that it wasn't perfect from the moment that you signed that paper.
Okay, so give me your argument then as to why Accounting Plus is any good on the Switch at all.
Labo VR.
I figured this would be the case.
This is correct. Right now, does not have the killer Labo VR app that I think it desperately needs for anyone to know that it exists and does things. And I feel like Accounting Plus could be that, partially because it is the only VR game that is good, and also partially because it could take advantage of the Joy-Cons really effectively for like that kind of tracking motion.
Well, see,
Here's where you're wrong, though.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to jump on you. If
I know
you're-
we're gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, is that the Switch VR, Labo VR does not have head tracking, so you have to have the Joy-Cons attached to your face
Okay.
in order to use the game.
Okay. Can
Yeah.
you get more Joy-Cons?
It's a valid question.
And it doesn't actually have a headset. You have to hold it up to your face.
Well, that's just some simple tape would really solve that issue.
Okay, JJ, the category is perfect for the Switch, not perfect with some duct tape.
Yeah, you have to tape it
to your skull,
to your face to make it work.
I
On the
really
Switch.
think you guys are not seeing the appeal of finally having the VR on the go experience that you needed.
Oculus Go already has this
Yeah,
covered.
and also like the only VR anything that exists for Switch is Mario, Zelda, and Labo. And you
Smash.
specifically Smash?
You can do Smash. It's not like
no.
real VR. It's just like you're a camera, but
Oh man,
And-
like when they smash into the screen would be real
oh,
scary.
it's so real. Yeah.
Yeah, and you suggested putting the Labo branding on it, which wouldn't work at all.
Well, I'm not gonna knock you for that. That's very pedantic. But I will
Yeah.
knock you for everything else.
I want to see people wandering aimlessly in the street like the cyberpunk future that I was promised when VR was created. I want the
Yeah.
equivalent of drug addicts, and I feel like Accounting Plus really makes you feel like a drug addict when you're playing it. And
That's
it can
true.
fit into that theme real smoothly for all the people who would be VRing on the go.
So how are we gonna resolve the fact that all three of the games that we've chosen are either incompatible or shitty?
I think you can make Device 6 work. And I think it's one of those like kind of top tier like mobile games that deserves to be played by more people, and I'd like to see it on the Switch where it could reach a wider audience.
Okay.
Let me propose
And it
an
would work
alternative.
especially well in handheld mode.
What is your alternative?
Detective Pikachu.
Coming in with the big arc.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that the Nintendo Switch only played good video games, though.
I
That's
think
not true at
yeah.
all.
Pantsu Hunter would like to have a word with you.
Stand corrected.
And all of the shovelware that you can find on the balance of the eShop.
Did you just call the eShop a palace?
In the bowels of the eShop.
Oh, okay.
In the palace.
was like,
In the
oh,
palace
okay.
of the eShop.
The Nintendo bias on this podcast crystallizing all the more.
Why is Detective Pikachu perfect for the Switch?
Because like, why isn't it on it already? That's my big question.
I agree it would make sense to put on there, but
Because it would improve the game itself, because they would have to cut out the bottom screen, so you no longer had the constant prompt to listen to Pikachu say dumb shit.
they'd just stick it right up there on the screen and probably make it take up more room.
All right, you're right. I think Device 6 takes it.
I
here.
do think Device 6 definitely takes
All
it.
right. Just score one.
All right. Getting off to a bumpy start.
All right,
A little
throw
bit.
the garbage on the ground because we are on the street.
All right, JJ. What's our second category?
Shing.
That is not the name of the second category. Why did you make the sword noise for the envelope?
I wanted them to think that I was doing a real dramatic envelope opening. I was going to do other things because it's also very thematic to the next category, which is another returning favorite. Least likely to be compared to Dark Souls.
I am moderately convinced that this may be a unanimous choice,
Ooh.
but we'll see.
I don't know. I thought there were a handful of legitimate answers to this.
All right.
The nominees are Hidden My Game by Mom, Detective Pikachu, and Detective Pikachu.
Wow. That's not at all what I would have expected.
You expected Hidden My Game by Mom?
Hidden My Game by Mom is definitely less like Dark Souls than Detective Pikachu is.
Please defend.
Please defend.
Yes, you're clearly on the back foot here
There's
for one of the rare 2v1 nominee situations.
This is that Mario Party minigame where 3 people are on one side of a raft and the other guy has to paddle 3 times as hard as them.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hidden My Game by Mom has no combat, no exploration. It's not in any way lonely. It's fun, in like in a zany way. It's definitely not difficult. The most I could give it as far as comparisons to Dark Souls going is that it is mildly obtuse, but it is obtuse in an entirely different way than Dark Souls is obtuse.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu, not obtuse, very easy, made for children.
You say like Dark Souls is not made for kids. Come on.
Very narrative focused and straightforward. Let's see, lots of cutscenes.
Bad design decisions.
I would struggle to compare it to Dark Souls in any way at all.
Enraged enemies with red eyes. Classic Dark Souls design.
Fuck.
A plot that doesn't make any sense.
Well, you can,
I'm going to push back on that. Dark Souls has some plots that make sense.
Yeah, but it also has some that don't.
Right, but that doesn't mean... That's not how plots work. Just because some of the plot doesn't make sense doesn't mean all of the plot doesn't make sense.
Is it in I think it's in Dark Souls 2 where you go to a television studio and film a short like film with cameras that are hanging on Pokemon, right?
No. Incorrect. Good try.
That might have been in a mod I played.
I want to maybe open myself up to public humiliation and say the late Hidden My Game by Mom levels are difficult and therefore comparable to Dark Souls in some capacity. And
yeah, I think the difficulty comes from its obtuseness.
Agreed.
But that's not the case with Dark Souls, really.
It can be.
It's the case in early Dark Souls, 100%. Its obtuseness is part of the issue of people trying to onboard into that series, like people not knowing that one of the stats does nothing and is terrible, for example. Yeah.
Sometimes Detective Pikachu doesn't have music playing, and in Hidden My Game by Mom, there's a soundtrack from the moment you boot the game until the moment it goes away.
Okay, fair. I also think Hidden My Game by Mom does have exploration. I just think your frame of reference never changes. I don't think a prerequisite to exploration is moving where the camera is pointing. You are exploring the environments inside of Hidden My Game by Mom by touching various elements to see if they're interactable and seeing the implications of those actions. You have to
kind of a moot point, though, because Detective Pikachu has the exact same thing, and you explore areas by walking around.
It's in like 2.5D, though.
In Detective Pikachu, you meet and talk to NPCs and solve their problems.
You do that in Hidden My Game by Mom as well.
No, you do not.
Don't. Nope,
you never speak to another human being.
Yeah,
or anything for that
You
matter.
are a psychopath and other humans are only obstacles for which you to overcome. Yeah.
You do solve their problems, though.
How?
Like, there are at least a couple levels where like you have to like get something and give it to your sister, you know, like, and your grandpa. Like, you have to like get them things,
okay,
in order for them to like give you your DS back. And I feel like there's implied dialogue going on there, even though we don't hear it.
It's a deep narrative read on Hidden My Game by Mom.
It's like classic like silent protagonist stuff where the characters are talking to you and it's implied your character's saying stuff.
Right, but normally when there's a silent protagonist, there isn't also
it's
a silent
way weirder
characters.
If all those things happen and neither the sister or the brother say anything to each other. That's the way weirder scenario.
Is there anything that isn't weird about the game?
Yeah. There's like just snakes and clay pots just strewn throughout.
Which is actually kind of a Dark Souls thing.
Yep.
Definitely has both snakes and clay pots.
Are there snakes in clay pots in Dark Souls?
Yes. No.
There's a man in a clay pot.
Is he a snake?
No, he's a pyromancer.
Ooh, I think we need to wrap this one up.
I think you have actually sold me with the aforementioned exploration point. Can you take me back to the light side of the Force right now?
I don't know. I feel like Pokemon, and especially the take on Pokemon, like the more narrative kid show style that Detective Pikachu has, just feels like the opposite of Dark Souls to me. Just like on like a base level, like the kind of like Dark Souls is like a much more mature, very adult kind of thing, and Detective Pikachu is a much more like carefree children's kind of thing. And that's kind of where like what pushed me towards it.
Look, if we were talking about averages, I would agree with you. For most of the time, Detective Pikachu is less like Dark Souls than Hidden My Game by Mom. But Detective
That's what
Pikachu
sold me
has
on it.
moments that are comparable, more comparable than the alternative.
In Dark Souls, do you ever like grab multiple like magical objects and combine them in some way? I feel like this is a thing.
Yeah, like the Lord Souls. Yeah.
Because there is a point where you collect Dragon Balls in Hidden My Game by Mom.
That's a little bit. That's enough of a stretch that I'd still want to give it to you. Although I respect you arguing against.
I just want to make sure. I
submission.
want to cover my bases. I don't want to get
know.
eviscerated.
We
This
are
is the
academically-
most hotly debated topic on the internet leading up to the NOCLIP Awards.
True. All right,
I win.
Chad wins.
Andy.
Here's the sword of failure.
All
as I
right.
pass to Andy.
All right. Unbelievably, we've brought back the category smashiest balls.
Because we are adults.
Yes. Well, I think the reasoning behind the Smashiest Balls category is more of like an improv exercise. This means nothing. It's just how can we justify what we've written down?
Exactly.
No, you can't. Don't like pull behind the veil/curtain.
Uh-huh.
All these categories are incredibly important, and I want public debate about the smashiest balls category
All right.
right now.
If we ever became super famous, people would start designing games with the Smashiest Balls award in mind.
All right. And the nominees are Katamari Damacy, Mario Maker, and Accounting Plus.
Okay.
All right. So, Chad, which one was yours?
Mario Maker.
All right. So, JJ, you're Katamari, and I'm Accounting Plus.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead because I know mine isn't gonna win because you guys are gonna look at me when I give my explanation and you're gonna be like, "All right." Anyway, moving on to something else. I give Mario Maker. I will note that now there are balls that smash in Mario Maker in the form of the spike balls. But that actually isn't really what I was going for, because those are by far not the smashiest balls that I've seen, not this year anyway. And what I actually meant with Mario Maker was that Mario Maker has some of the most ball-smashingest hard levels of any game that I've played this year.
All right, so Andy.
My pick for Accounting Plus is it's you, the player, that has the smashiest balls, because literally everyone in the game is just smashing your balls in every vignette.
In
They're
what
busting
sense?
your balls.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Oh, they're metaphorically
Yeah,
smashing
like,
your
yeah.
balls. Okay. Nice and narrative. I feel like the moment in which
like
you're...
that scene in South Park where Cartman's on the phone trying to sell fetuses to abortion clinics. And he's just like, come on, you're breaking my balls.
Great Foley.
The characters are breaking your balls in that way.
Okay.
Constantly.
You do also like murder tons of people. That's not
That's
a very
true.
ball smash situation. That's an empowered my balls are here.
You do also die multiple times in the game, though, and that apparently was enough to give it to Smash Walter last year.
But JJ, explain yours.
The game is about a ball that smashes things.
Yeah, so,
But the ball itself isn't being smashed.
No,
No,
it's
but the ball
smashiest
smashes.
ball.
Okay, okay.
yeah, and in a way, it's like a reversal birth. No, it's like
It's a reversal rebirth.
Yeah, it's a reversal of the prompt's like intended thing.
Uh-huh.
But while we naysayed on the Smash Ball last year for being the literal boring answer, I think in this case you've got me. I think Katamari has the smashiest ball. It is only one ball though.
That's true.
Not descriptively untrue. You only handle one ball at a time, but each ball continues to exist as a beautiful ball star.
As a new discrete ball.
In a testicle galaxy that you create.
Andy, do you have a last minute defense before I give my points over to Katamari?
I mean, I don't know. I can sell it really much harder than that.
That's a pretty flaccid sell.
I mean, I got what you were going for.
Yeah.
And I agree with it. I agree with your decision and your definition and everything.
We'll still respect you after this.
Right.
Unlike me, who gave a shitty answer.
You just wait. You just wait until these other categories.
Oh, God.
My entries are going to be so bad. You love them.
All right. Well, Katamari Damacy gets my vote.
All right.
Victory.
Victory. Oh, shit. It's
And
my
with
turn.
victory comes the sword.
For the first new category of the year, this envelope is folded strangely.
Not that sharp, Chad. You cannot just stab.
It's in fact not sharp at all and can't even go through the sealed end of the envelope. Got it. So the new category that I'm reading right now is the Geriatric Award, which is the game whose mechanics show their age worst of all. And whether that is mechanics that are just old mechanics in a game or an old game with old mechanics that didn't age well.
Yeah, something that when you play it, you just feel like, oh, this feels dated.
Yeah. And our nominees are Kingdom Hearts 3, Silent Hills 2, Phoenix Wright 1. So we went two sequels and the original. Pretty good.
Silent Hill 2. Which among you?
I picked it.
Speak your name and then your truth.
I think the game overall I really liked. I think the game holds up in a lot of ways, and its controls are not one of them. It feels incredibly stiff and awkward to play, and even once you get used to it, it is like so jerky, and like it's hard to just walk in a straight line in the game. And the combat is like you have to stop and like awkwardly like wail a board or like, you know, kind of move a gun around. It's very like rusty, robotic old game controls.
In the episode on Silent Hill 2, in fact, Andy expressed that if the team that remade Resident Evil could remake Silent Hill 2, that would be like ideal. And I totally see where he's coming from here and grant all those points.
Mm-hmm. But you did not grant them when pen came to paper.
Correct.
And you had to write the answer to this category. So why, Chad?
Does Phoenix Wright have the most antiquated mechanics?
Yes.
Interestingly, this is one where I had a little bit of a struggle trying to decide what to go for here. And the game has two entirely separate mechanic sets as you go through it, one of which takes place in the courtroom, and it's menu selecting. And you select things from menus, and it's pretty simple and pretty much all you could do in the situation. And I take no issue with that. The other half of the game is walking around and looking at stuff, and they do it by menu selecting. The only thing that should never be done by menu selecting is moving and walking around. It is horrible to move through that game. And you just have to slowly move your cursor over every individual thing in an area, click on it, wait for the fucking dialogue to play out, and hope to God it doesn't reset it at the end of the thing.
Okay.
And JJ.
Also agreed. Hold your damn horses, Andy Kanek. Also agreed on your Phoenix Wright point. But my question immediately after is, when I think of a dated mechanic, I don't think of just an old mechanic. I think of a mechanic that used to be in vogue, something that was popular and done. This just sounds like a bad mechanic. What other game treated exploration like this?
That was going to be my rebuttal as well, is that I don't think that's a product of the game's age. I think that's just bad design to begin with.
I don't think people like this at the time. Was it even accepted at the time?
I don't know what the context of like Phoenix Wright criticism in the when it came out was, but I know that the game was generally well received, so I have to imagine that it probably didn't get brought up a whole lot. It's really just the game is old, and it had hardware limitations in that it had to use a Game Boy Advance buttons to do its navigation, and that's why it ended up doing that. But the game as we played it was released in 2019, and they really should have done something about it. Ergo, old mechanic, new game, bad choices.
I see. Now I will discuss Kingdom Hearts 3, as I have always done and will continue to do. It's just the combat system, man. It's as simple as that. I have never felt older than the moment I picked up that game, started going through it, and just became more cognizant of how much I was hitting the X button over and over again, and didn't have to do anything else. And tons of games were just like this when I was a kid. Not Kingdom Hearts 1, notably, but entire genres were based around hitting the X button until pretty things happened. And I felt so hollow and alone after going through that and knowing that was all that was there, and that's all that I needed to do to win. I didn't felt like a winner. I felt like a 45-year-old man who was never a winner. And that's why I think it deserves to be shamed publicly by winning this category.
Yeah. I think one of the first things I said about the combat system on the Kingdom Hearts 3 episode was that it showed its age. But I don't feel like it's that bad. And I feel like with polishing, what's in place in Kingdom Hearts 3 could actually be good. So I don't know if it shows its age that badly.
You dodge roll to avoid damage, Andy Koenig.
That's a thing that's still popular now.
No, not the concept of dodge rolling. I mean a dodge roll that has absolute perfect, at all times present invulnerability frames.
That's not true in Kingdom Hearts 3, is it? I'm pretty sure Birth by Sleep is the only one that has that, and it's only Aqua that
I'm
can
going to
do
level
it.
with you. I never once dodge rolled in Kingdom Hearts 3.
You didn't have to.
A madman?
I
He doesn't have our history.
I forgot it
okay.
was even an option.
That's that doesn't compute. You're gonna make me short circuit. But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. I think there's also a quantity argument to be made, because a lot of Kingdom Hearts mechanics were made over the series' storied 13-year-long history,
And
they're just all in there.
They're just in a pile.
There is a lot that they did to update it.
But I want to give it to Silent Hill, and the reason is because if the people who make Resident Evil, the oldest like survival horror series of all time, have found it necessary to go back and update tank controls and like targeted aim weird movement, it makes me feel like if even they, who made the same game 7 times in a row, are saying, nope, that's too old even for us, I think that is the point where you go, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe the love of tank controls is too far gone.
Yeah, and you know that like feeling when you play like a really old game, like you boot up an NES game and you try to play it and it's just off-putting to you?
Yeah.
Like it's just like a product of a bygone era that you missed. Like the tank controls, like this might be more specifically me, like how much I dislike them, but they feel similar to that. It's not nearly as bad, but you pick it up and you're like, oh god, like this used to be acceptable. And It is just terrible.
All right, I'm on the boat. Let's sail off to Silent Hill 2 Island.
All right.
Yeah. I will say I'm not in the same boat, and I disagree, but they are the oldest mechanics that feel the oldest, so definitely in the thing.
All right, JJ.
There's some weird graphite sweepage on the front of this one.
Some nice shading on that envelope.
Good
It really gives it dimension.
The next category. Worst map implementation.
Shoutouts to 30 minutes ago when this was best map implementation.
Yeah, so this is like area maps in games where you pull up a map screen and it has markers or doesn't, or, you know.
Yeah.
The nominees are Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Return of the Obra Dinn.
Ooh.
All right, I'm the one who picked Return of the Obra Dinn.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Yeah, because Return of the Obra Dinn's map is just a boat outline shape, and then they put an X on it with literally no other information. They don't tell you what deck it's on. They just give you a vague idea of what quadrant of the boat that the thing is located.
I want to add to that. Mm-hmm. There's a second map that is just 3 boat outline shapes, and I think in order to read that, you need to have built a boat personally.
Yeah. And because Kingdom Hearts 3 also came to my mind. I totally get it. But that map is at least functional as a map, and you can get useful information from it.
Andy, I have never been so convinced by anything in my entire life.
Yeah. That it's true. It's wildly bad, but also, so here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And why I'm going to stick, even if you waffle on me here, I'm going to stick to my guns because Kingdom Hearts 3
Your
has
Keyblade guns?
Yes, I'm going to stick to my honey blasters or whatever the fuck that was called. In Kingdom Hearts 3, the map itself is useful to some extent, but then also it's not useful because all the levels are very linear. So it's useful in maybe the frozen world, and that's it. It also has a good map in the form of the map in the Pirates area, but then they fuck it all up, and in every single area you have to detour to a chest to pick up the map, and that ruined the map for me. So in addition to it being largely useless, even if it's a good map, it also spoils you on chests, pretty much.
I don't know what do you mean by spoils us on chests?
I can't get excited to see a chest when I know the first one that I see in every goddamn area is just going to have the map in it.
Yeah,
something I expect to be there.
I completely agree with the things you're saying. I think that's more a product of the treasure chest implementation and choosing to put just the big chest be the map.
Right.
And so there's no excitement about what it is. But you said it yourself. It is a good map. And I think the things about it that are bad are more in the execution.
But the category is in worst map implementation, not worst map overall. And also I want to shout out that the Obra Dinn map is thematically on point. It's probably historically accurate to a map. Knowing this game, it's probably what you would be given if you got on board a boat in that era.
You can make a map of a boat. And this is just an outline.
Yeah, you're tempting us with a very not equivalent comparison here.
You can say anything good about the Kingdom Hearts map. That makes it better than the Obra Dinn map.
The Obra Dinn map looks cool.
It's just an outline of a boat on a sheet of paper.
But it's not like a blank sheet of notebook paper. It's like a sheet of paper with symbols and nautical shit around
it's on
it.
a piece of parchment.
Yeah, it's dope paper. I clearly haven't won you guys over. And while I never used the map in the Oberdin, and the times when it like gives you a thing that's like, mark this on your map, it then just opens it to a screen that appears not to have changed at all.
Please keep going.
No,
Chad.
it's a real bad map. I'll give it to you, but it's cooler, and I didn't need it ever.
Sounds like bad implementation.
But the Kingdom Hearts 3 map made me get it out of a chest. 0 out of 10.
All right, I win that one.
Don't put things in chests,
Yeah.
says Chad.
Don't put necessary things in chests.
Like gold.
Yes.
You need gold to survive
Someone should just
economically.
give me gold.
Hey,
is
this
what I'm
is
saying.
this is priming us for a chest discussion for next year's NOCLIP Awards.
Oh, are we gonna have like a boob themed one?
Yeah, amazing chest, the most amazing chest that laid ahead.
Yes. Smashiest
Award.
breasts.
Yes. All right, so on to the next category, which is worst use of beloved characters. So
yes.
a game that had beloved characters in it, and we did not like how they were portrayed or what was done with them. These fucking envelopes.
We picked the envelopes.
I know.
No, we didn't.
We got them at the last minute. All right.
Yeah, it was a really bad scene.
Deep envelopes, not the way to go.
Yeah, you want much smaller envelopes than
Yes.
this.
We'll think about it sooner next year.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We say to the crowd
All right,
watching
and-
us unwrap.
The nominees are Hidden My Game by Mom,
I've already forgotten the category. That's how off the mark that
Worst
is.
Use of Beloved Characters,
Oh, I know this now. Okay, go on.
Deracine, and Detective Pikachu.
All right,
What the fuck? Deracine.
that's me.
I
I want
assumed.
you to explain it last because I'm excited about that.
Okay.
Okay.
So I went with Detective Pikachu, and I think basically every Pokemon except Pikachu is kind of given the short end of the stick here. They're basically just text box spewing blank slates.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it there for now.
I was going to I was considering Detective Pikachu strictly for Feebas because they did our boy real dirty by giving
They
him
did a
the
lot of
most
them real
irritating voice of anything ever in the history of audio.
Oh yeah, I would totally get on board a more like deep dulcet sea bass.
Dude, we need a good Feebas. That's what I'm saying.
All right, Hidden My Game by Mom, JJ.
As previously alluded within the podcast, this game portrays all other human beings you encounter as obstacles on your DS grabbing goals that you never interact with and never speak to. And I find this very damaging to the public understanding of the nuclear family. Moms are some of the most beloved characters in all of our lives, universally growing up. And the mere sight of a mom is a fail state in this game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly, when you said this earlier, I thought that you had just come up with it. And, like, it seems like you've somehow, like, stopped time to go back and switch out your nominees.
Mm-hmm.
But this was prepared.
It was.
I'm surprised.
Mm-hmm. I was
Also, what
pulling-
about the Nintendo 3DS? That's a beloved character.
That's not a character.
Like an elephant shits one out in the game. Like that's pretty disrespectful.
All right, Chad.
Deracine uses one of the most already abused characters in games to further abuse not just the character itself, but also the fan base of just indisputably one of the greatest games of all time. Deracine uses the pale doll from Bloodborne to insinuate that there might be more Bloodborne eventually. And then to make matters worse, From Software has come out and said, don't read too much into that. It was just a joke mostly. So
Did they add mostly?
I don't remember.
Oh.
It's Japanese. They always have, like, the translations are never perfect, you know?
Yeah. Japanese are impossible to understand foreign people.
This is a real problem. If
You mean racism? Yes, I agree. It's a real problem.
But anyway, that's why Deracine, because they use the pale doll in the game, and the pale doll should not be used in such a frivolous manner.
See, I love that answer. I think it's real outside the box, but
It's less outside the box than JJ's answer.
that's true. But the Pale Doll is a cool character, and will admit that I'm not super tapped into the Bloodborne fan base, but it's not like something that would come to mind when I'd think beloved character. Personally, maybe I'm off base there, but
I'm sorry I made the clicking sound so loud on the podcast.
Yeah.
I wanted you to finish.
But you've distracted me too much.
My plan.
Oh, and I also think like her inclusion in Deracine as a doll that is owned by one of the children is a cool Easter egg, and it may be a little bit on the fans for reading so much into it.
The item description. Okay, all right. I'll come out and say it. I was one of the fans that read too much into it.
I'd love to see a Bloodborne too.
The item
like,
description of the Pale Doll when you get it in the game describes it as coming from the unfinished tale.
Right.
The unfinished tale!
I mean, that seems like more of a troll from software and less like a disrespecting of the character.
Heart to heart, Chad. A grievous wound has been placed upon us by this unfollowed up Deracine tease. But I would argue the character of the Pale Doll is not in Deracine. The visage of the Pale Doll is in Deracine. It's like the equivalent. Imagine if you'd taken that doll out and replaced it with like, I don't know, a Pokemon, like Lapras, like a Lapras doll.
Okay, so, all right, we have to quash this immediately because you chose moms. This is an image representing a mom. It is not mom.
Also, mom isn't a character.
Yeah, and additionally, Pokemon
Moms have character.
That's not the prompt,
Moms have
JJ.
uniform character.
That's a stereotype, JJ.
It is. And
It is a
also,
stereotype,
Pokemon are just... Like, none of the Pokemon in Pokemon Detective Pikachu are literally the Pokemon that they were anywhere else. Except Mewtwo, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far from this.
Which is why it's a bad use of them.
I agree it's a bad use of them as well. I want to know before we keep going, yes or no, do you consider just a representation of a character on a doll as a use of the character?
JJ.
Yes, Chad?
The character is a doll.
But it's not a stuffed doll.
It could be.
What do you mean? No, it couldn't be. You can see inside of his head.
That's a weird argument,
she
but
does
you're
look
right.
like she's made of like prosthetics.
Yeah, no, she's a doll and like a more... But like
Like a
she's also
mannequin.
only exists in a dream.
She's in the real world too.
Are you implying
true.
that she could like change her form voluntarily into a straw doll?
I don't see why not.
Hey.
You would voluntarily, spoiler alert, change your form into a squid. So
I mean, it's more fun to argue for this, but the doll also makes the make contact gesture when you pick it up.
also true.
I mean, other dolls can make gestures and still not be
But
people.
it does kind of imply that there's like some kind of like something up with the doll, something otherworldly.
Did you see a little string in the back that you could
No,
pull?
there sure wasn't.
Oh,
Nope.
fuck.
It's like the doll was trying to make contact with you to give you a special message.
It was.
But I still, my biggest argument against it is it's more of like Bloodborne, From Software kind of messing with the fan base and less like, I don't think it's like a bad use of the character specifically. Like if they teased Bloodborne in any way, shape, or form, it would elicit the same reaction. I think the delivering it through the doll isn't really what makes it.
But that's the thing that, well, it's not even that because, like, I'm saying it's a bad use of the character because they're using the doll from Bloodborne to deliver this thing.
Right.
But at the same time, they're using just the concept of a world of Pokemon in a bad game, I think is as weak, if not weaker.
I'm actually more with Andy on this. I think all of the distinct Pokemon, as I envision them, their designs are supposed to invoke personalities that they suddenly don't have. Like I think Andy's point is more of an aggregate of different Pokemon, tons of different examples of a specific Pokemon whose design, aesthetic, and personality was not carried through into its speech. You know, Feebas did not look like the kind of person I thought Feebas was: sad, lonely, ramen munching that I assumed him to be.
kind of getting at that like the Pokemon are kind of just designs in Detective Pikachu and not actually.
I don't agree. I just don't agree. Like, if we're broadening it to that scope, the Pokemon generally don't have. They're supposed to have individualized personalities, and I think that the game generally would exhibit a positive interpretation of the Pokemon way more times than it does not. I think that there are a couple of examples that are like egregious and stupid, and the game is terrible. But I don't think that in itself is a 1-for-1 in this case.
Can you give me an example of Pokemon you thought they really did right in Detective Pikachu?
Timber. It's a Pokemon who's defined by carrying things around, and it carried things around. It even was more observant than I would have expected it to be.
Why? Okay. Why do you think people who carry things aren't observant, Chad?
Oh, no, I don't think you're putting too many words in my mouth here. I don't think that Timber looks like he would be very observant. People who carry things in Timber are not the same group. I carried shit earlier. I was not a Pokemon at the time.
Fair. God, this is a tangled web we've woven for this particular category.
All right, I'll change my answer then.
No, I
Daracine also has a character named Yulia, which is a terrible use of the fake cat that the undead merchant is petting in Dark Souls 1.
She wasn't even a cat. Terrible use of that character.
Exactly.
Horrible. Answer change to Daracine.
I think we need to wrap this one up.
I do.
Did I sway you, JJ?
No.
No? Okay, then who wins? Is it a stalemate?
I mean, can't I just win with my mom?
You cannot win with Mom.
You were counted out.
I noticed.
I guess you could force a stalemate by not changing your answer.
How much
you
do I
either
wanna
tie
commit
break
to
or
this
you
bit?
make a stalemate.
I can king make right now. I think the Yulia joke is funnier than my mom's joke, and will therefore give it to Chad on that basis.
All right.
Yes. Well, we get to talk so much about Dark Souls.
I love Dark Souls.
Me too.
Oh, Dark Souls is great.
This next question is:
Have you ever heard about how there's like this interconnected world? Like you can like go down this elevator and like, oh fuck, you're back in Firelink Shrine.
You're in Firelink Shrine.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And you can like jump off of the elevator and you can find secret chests. And the game never like draws attention to it, so it's like a real secret.
This next category is most connected to Firelink Shrine, and the nominees are. No, this category is most unique mechanics set, which just absolutely broke my head trying to come up with which one it was in this particular instance.
Maybe the best year for this category ever.
Yeah, I thought there was a kind of a runaway correct answer, but
Okay,
that can still be true while it's also being the best year.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So the nominees are Bob Is You, Device 6. I mostly chose Device 6 because my assumption was that one or both of you would choose Baba Is You. And if we're talking about like pure mechanic sets, barring everything else, I would argue that Little Inferno probably has almost kind of a chance to run away with it because it's not anything that you ever do in any other game, which is just burn things, and that is all. But I gotta agree with Bob Is You on this one. My vote for Device 6 was mostly a shout out because I wasn't sure if we were going to get to talk about it at all. But the game is a cool game about reading and figuring out puzzles and your location and exploration and everything through text and sound. And it's just such an unusual presentation that even though the mechanics are mostly generic puzzle solving mechanics, it's framed in such a way that it makes it a totally unique and interesting experience. Okay. So I think that mechanically speaking, Bob Is You has a leg up on it, but it depends on how granular you get with it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I made my decision as well, because like there were a couple games I considered, like Obra Dinn was one, but I was when it came down to it, I felt like I needed to rule out presentation and the kind of contextual things that make something like Device 6 or Obra Dinn stand out.
Yeah.
And go for the pure mechanic set. And I think Baba Is You is a step above everything else. Like, I cannot compare anything to it, really, except for Steven Sausage Roll, maybe. And
only
even
through
those are, like,
difficulty.
way different. Yeah.
Yeah, just through scaling.
Yeah.
And the kind of curve that you have to follow mentally, sure. But the mechanics are nothing like it. And I doubt it's a mechanics that's so unique. I doubt there will ever be a game that tries to imitate it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
But if we break it down even further than that and say that the mechanic says just walking around, Bravo is usually like normal. Death Stranding.
Also, so clearly, as you, Chad, have admitted, you actually think the answer is Baba Is You. AB wanted to shout out Device 6. Is this correct?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. Well, then I will treat that as an admission of guilt in your disrespecting the NOCLIP Awards fundamentally. And now that we have this, you are being recorded right now.
Oh, no.
This is a sting operation. The council will come later to decide your fate.
The No Clip Council?
Yes.
Oh, the No Council. We don't have a council. I'm good, bitches.
Oh, you're correct.
Oh, God.
Way to get use the logic of the podcast to get around it.
The next category is Best Soundtrack.
Yeah.
The nominees are deep in this envelope. Katamari Damacy, Deltarune, and Katamari Damacy.
Ooh, I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, going through all of the games, Katamari was the only one that really jumped out at me. Last year, we had, I think, a handful of like really strong contenders, and one thing I think they all had in common is I felt like their soundtracks really like embodied the games, like kind of either like aesthetically or like tonally or like atmospherically, whatever, stuff like that. And Katamari, I feel like, is the only game we played this year that also did that, which gave it the edge
I
for
will
me.
counter argue you on this, but I also put Katamari Damacy, so it's not a strong counter argument, and that is Obra Dinn. I very much considered Obra Dinn. I think quantity legitimately is what held me back. I thought there are like 3 really outstandingly great songs in Obra Dinn, and they use them a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But it is like perfectly in line with like the thematics and the everything else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Yeah, like it just like the music in that game is great, and it's like perfect like ocean adventure music. But like it doesn't. Yeah, there's very few tracks, and it doesn't quite go like that extra mile.
Everyone stares at me immediately.
I mean, I could also just throw in, as far as why I voted for Katamari Damacy, is super obvious if you were aware of me as a person at all. Because I've been listening to the Katamari Damacy soundtrack pretty much on repeat since I was 11 years old. So it's just great. It's funny. I love it. It sounds real goofy. It fits the game really well. I've got the vinyl. I've got the CD. I've got the remix album. Like, I really love this soundtrack, and it's for the complete opposite reasons that I loved like the Nier soundtrack.
I got a mea culpa here. The only reason I wrote Deltarune is because near the end of the game, there's like the best there's like the best shop remix music in any game in the history of all video games.
Yeah, I really wanted to pick Deltarune for something, and I think this was a good category to vote for it for.
Indeed.
But like I think for me, it suffered a little bit too similar to the first game syndrome, where like I felt like the Undertale soundtrack really stood out to me, and then this game's music was really similar, and I don't know that I can really remember like hear any of the songs in my head when I think about Deltarune.
I think that's a time and saturation thing.
True.
But at the same...
It's probably not like a fair criticism, but...
Yeah. Either way, Deltarune was on my short list of favorite soundtracks this year, and it is outstanding, and I don't think that you need to, like, fall on your sword about a good shop song. I think that, like, just legitimately, the music in the game is super great, and I think most sane people would also consider it.
Excellent.
I also think that people who consider the Katamari Damacy soundtrack to be super great are probably insane.
I don't think that's fair.
No, it isn't, but it's real goofy. That's really what I was going for.
No, I think there's more artistic integrity to it than people would give it credit for.
It's just not artistic integrity that is fun to look at. It is artistic integrity that is distressing to look at. And that's also art and is also good.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you feel that way about the game because we recorded a podcast on it where we discussed it at length.
Yes.
But I don't feel that way about Katamari.
I'm going to...
We love Katamari.
Yeah, the sequel. Check us out next time.
I'm going to stick to my guns and fall on the slings and arrows because God knows I'm not going to convince either of you.
All right, win for Katamari.
That was the most important category for Katamari.
Yep. All right. I like this category quite a bit.
What's the category?
The category is Best Costume Design. So this is not quite character design, but like kind of literally costume design, like in the Oscars. Like which game had the coolest costume designs for characters to be wearing? And the nominees are Detention, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Katamari Damacy.
I didn't put it on that one, actually.
Yeah, that one was me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in for Katamari Damacy as best costume design.
Okay. Let's just address this now.
Mm-hmm.
Dress,
yes.
costumes.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I'll be here all week. So I assume that we're talking about not the people on the street.
Correct.
We're talking about tight body stockings worn by the royalty of the cosmos.
Yes. And I hope I'm right about this. I assume the cylinders on their heads are the cosmic equivalent of crowns.
No one knows.
I mean,
look, they also wear crowns.
He is wearing
as well.
a crown, yeah. So it might be part of that crown.
It could be a bonus crown.
Yeah. It could be part of his head, too. Who knows?
Well, all of the cousins, right, who may or may not be actual biological cousins, that's not really discussed, have differently shaped heads.
Uh-huh.
Some of them have tall heads instead of long ones. Some are round.
Which implies that it's a fashion choice and not like a freak genetic.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm
aberration.
falling on it. I think we can count it as clothes.
Good. Okay. And I think we agree if it is clothes, it's by far the boldest, most fashion-conscious thing in any game we've played this year.
I will give you bold.
I went with Kingdom Hearts 3 because there's a lot of great costume work in that game. Like, legitimately, like, I think all you really need to do is look at the Pirates of the Caribbean costumes for Sora, Donald, and Goofy. They're fantastic. Sora's even got a gold tooth when he's a pirate. Fantastic attention to detail. I think Tetsuya Nomura's a really good costume designer. He redesigns all the costumes for each of the games, and he did it 4 times in this one. I think they're all really great.
I think we are almost obligated from a utilitarian perspective not to allow Kingdom Hearts 3 to win this category because of the emails we will receive.
Don't cow to emails, JJ.
I love emails that are good, though. My psyche is weak, and I need reinforcement from the public.
I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is a really interesting choice here. because I was also considering it. It definitely has the quantity argument locked the fuck up.
Yeah,
like it's the most designs in one game.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I really
ever.
want to push for those original ones because there's a lot of Disney stuff to fall back on.
Right.
So I'm not even like counting the Disney characters. Like all the outfits for the original characters, I think cinch it on its own.
Yeah, and I think that like if you compare the games in the series, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a much more. The fashion choices are a lot more reasonable, and I think that they outclass the character designs from Kingdom Hearts 2 pretty much universally.
Yeah.
And they probably also outclass all of the designs from Kingdom Hearts 1, except Kingdom Hearts 1 invented those characters.
Right.
And so I feel like it loses, it's diminished slightly because it's a third iteration. But maybe I'm wild.
You are wild, but that... No, never mind. You are wild.
This is the like no cuts episode, so that's just gonna stay.
I want to hear your reasoning for detention.
Yeah, so detention does not get the award from me, the nod, simply because it has like school uniforms, which are super easy to design and in fact take no work. I'm giving the credit for the costume design to the ghosts, actually. They're wearing some ghostly styles for sure. And particularly I love the designs of the big hat tall man. And
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Big hat tall man is really good, and the like ghostly white dress ghosts are particularly eerie, and I think did a lot to enhance. And I mostly came to this because I was thinking about Silent Hill 2 and how much the costume design kind of lacks in that one, even though it emphasizes the points they're trying to get across. Nurse with titties is not like the thing that I like. I'm like, oh, this is the best part of this game. Whereas like I think that tall man with the big hat might have been like one of my favorite parts of that game aesthetically.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like in order to be a fair and unbiased judge, Andy, you have to walk over to the computer and pull up a full screen image of big hat tall man, so that I can have a frame of reference to compare this to the nice Riku costume that has very solidified in my head.
I got this. We actually will cut this part unless you want to continue discussing while I do it.
Cut it, because there are going to be too many chair and table sounds.
Agreed. Ooh. Oh, you played this game?
Yeah, that's
Oh, I
detention.
love this game. I forgot its name, but I have seen it and it looked good. Big hat, tall man.
I think while his hat certainly plays a part, which I would call his costume, I think it's more the character design itself than the costumes that make the enemies in detention good.
Yeah, it's not the shirt that makes him tall.
Certainly isn't.
But it certainly isn't.
It really is a tall shirt, though.
It is a very big shirt, but that's not... That was a restriction when the ghost tailor was given the order. He didn't have... It wasn't a choice to be like, I'm going to make a strong artistic statement about the size of this shirt. Unless he did intend that and just tragically gave the shirt to a man who was also
Very
equally tall.
So it looked more normal than he had intended it to.
It would be.
No, I agree that this is by far the plainest of the choices. But it was just in how effective the character designs were and how they chose to go about them, because they're a mix of the unreal and the mundane, and that meshes. And despite what you said, I think I'm probably going to end up giving it to Kingdom Hearts on this one.
Oh, fuck all of you. It's all right.
I do love the Katamari thing, but I think that the jury is still out as to whether or not those are clothes or just what their heads look like.
Damn it! All right, I should have leaned in harder on collected evidence about their clothes status. I bet I can't be the first person to have this question.
What does the King of all Cosmos look like with the hat off? If that's a hat.
A guy.
Like just a regular man with a very defined chin.
Yes.
Oh, I hate that, though. I don't know. I'm up in the air. Would you be willing to switch to Katamari?
No.
Then I think I'm going to go Kingdom Hearts. Gotta love them zippers.
I mean, I do love King of all Cosmos, but I think he alone cannot sway me.
I mean, the prince has a cool design as
and
well.
all the
It's
princes.
so simple, though.
It's
Yeah.
pretty simple.
Fashion is often about simplicity. Yeah. Of course, I shouldn't be arguing the merits of simplicity to Mr. Nomura, loving all your belts and zippers and zipping belts.
No, I mean,
and
there
zip
is
together.
power in simplicity, but I mean, the prince is literally just wearing like a green shirt and
like
some pink pants.
Yeah,
They're very bold colors, though.
they are
Yeah.
both. Hey, you've already won. You don't need to be distraught about it. All right. This one is a good question, I think, for people designing video games.
What is the question?
The question is, which game did we play this year?
I've never seen someone fail to use a letter opener that much.
And that many times in a row as well. Is which game is least likely to appeal to an American audience? We tried to go with new quirky categories, but that turned into very long wordy categories. And the nominees are Deracine, the game that gets nominated for every single category, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Tamashi, which I honestly... I guess I'll just hear arguments now. I assume Andy's Deracine?
Yeah. If you go for like the stereotypical like short attention span modern American, Deracine is the opposite of everything that they would like. It's very slow paced. It's got the period dialogue. It's got like this drab kind of depressing setting. It's, people... I think an American audience wants something a little bit more convenient, a little bit more, something that respects their time a bit more, something a bit more like fun and laid back.
Never in your entire life have you sounded more like a CEO. Like a
well,
man...
that's the
Kind of the
mindset of this
category.
category.
The mindset of this category is not the stereotype of what the disconnected elite believe America is. It's about what Americans actually want. And Americans have proven time and time again that many of them do want slow, contemplative bullshit.
How well did Deracine sell?
How well did Gone Home sell?
Better than Deracine, I would almost guarantee it.
No, that's my point.
Oh.
My point is that, like,
there
because
are Gone Home is similar to Deracine.
and didn't have, like, a crazy marketing budget behind it, among many other games that are equally contemplative like that and are very plain in their presentation. This is what you are parodying the stereotype behind people who have the power to create games, not the reality of the world that we live in.
I also
don't know.
consider
I feel
Deracine for this.
I feel like Gone Home probably didn't sell that great either.
No,
Gone Home broke 1 million, I know.
that's true.
Very quickly as well. Because it's, like, cool and a good video
No,
game.
I'm not arguing that. I mean, I think Deracine is good too.
I just wanted to shill for Gone Home a little
But
bit.
I feel like they definitely like go against like popular design trends for American audiences.
Okay, who do you think is the audience that is better for Deracine than Americans? Like Europeans?
I mean, I feel like we start talking about this kind of stuff, we're just gonna be like talking out our asses because we don't really know. But if I had to pick another like country,
Hungarians.
European would probably be what I would have come up with.
Because that's the setting of the game. And
Yeah.
like, there's a lot that actually goes to that. Like, I would have considered buying Fallout 76 despite not liking the Fallout games that are supposed to actually be good because it is set in West Virginia.
I did do that. That is, in fact, the reason that I bought
Yeah.
76 is because...
So, if you're... I mean, that probably... That appeals.
Tell me why Tashi...
I feel like I'm just going to come in here and just shit on this category. So, let's hear why Kingdom Hearts 3 is a bad fit for American audiences.
Well, I think if you correlate sales numbers to review scores, there's considerable evidence that Americans like games that are good, generally. Yeah, they are really big on games that are good, and when they like them, and that they're fun to play and are rewarding in any way.
See, Kingdom Hearts has Disney characters in it. Americans fucking love Disney. The game I feel like was everywhere when it came out. It has a sense of fun and flashiness to it. Like, I feel like it has tons of appeal on, like, for lots of different kinds of people.
I just wanted to get one last punch in because I didn't think it was guaranteed. I also submit my judgment to the NOCLIP No Council for disrespecting the awards for the chance at this punch.
I will also say that Kingdom Hearts is marketed pretty heavily on what's her name?
Nominee.
Oh, Utada Hikaru.
Utada Hikaru's like theme music for the games, and the popularity of K-pop currently makes me think that Asian pop music must be like at least on the minds of the American youth.
It is.
So
I have evidence that it is. Strong evidence.
Do we have Naruto to thank for this?
No. Naruto?
Naruto popularized like a lot of like the shonen like hit single like anime openings that are like super popular.
I was totally unfamiliar about this as a thing.
Yeah, because like my sister really likes it, and I was like watching an episode over at my parents' house, and the episode ended, and a song that I know, like by Oreska Band, is just one of the end themes. So like, there's so many different like arcs of that show, and so many different like songs that have been attached to it that I really think it was like a window into Japanese music for like a certain demographic, and that's why it's more popular in America.
I was under the impression that K-pop's demographic skew, not universal of course, but skew in the US was towards women though, and I feel like women did not care about Naruto as a general rule.
I don't know that, but I feel like it's got to be an influence.
But they might like Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, they might like that too.
Anyway, if there's an argument to be made against my choice of Tamashi, it is that Tamashi appeals to no audience.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It doesn't feel like it would specifically not appeal to an American audience.
Right.
It's just really obscure.
Yeah, Tamashi... But I think that Tamashi does everything that it can in its power to repel its audience. And I think that there are people who are more willing to engage with that, and based on the game's inspirations, I want to say that it isn't American, because the games this game takes its inspiration from are all Japanese games, but it is just like wildly out there with unusual like kind of weird like level design choices and like really off the wall aesthetics.
Yeah, it also takes inspiration from like Geiger and like other Western religions and things. Like, it is a weird cocktail, and I think would be equally appealing and unappealing to anyone.
Yeah.
When you throw it all in the vat, there's a little something in there for everyone. Hi, I'm an announcer.
Where did that accent come from? You did it so well, it took me a second to question it.
Don't you know that's his announcer?
JJ's been working on his acting.
I was trying to do my rendition of what the Pepperidge Farm guy was like when he was 30 and not 70. And that's what it came out as.
All right. Do we have like any way of deciphering what this all means?
I don't know. Where's the NOCLIP No Council Codex to allow
That's
us
the
to
trick
solve?
with the No Council, is that they don't exist.
Well, my vote shouldn't count for anything, so it's really just between you two, I believe. My vote is useless and dumb.
Well, I know more Americans who have played Deracine than I do Americans who have played Tamashi.
I feel like that's because of its obscurity, though.
Well, it's because the only people I know who've played Deracine are the two of you, and the only person I know who's played Tamashi is just you.
Yeah.
But for my sample size, that's a 50% increase in player base.
I feel like I can think of people that I know who might like Tamashi. Like, I can't think of like people who like weird horror stuff.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody who's like, yeah, Deracine. Like, that's the aesthetic that I like.
That's a good point.
That's
I can
an
think of
excellent
maybe
point.
like a couple of people, but not as many. And I'll give it to you. Deracine was definitely under consideration for me as well.
Yeah,
All right.
Deracine also gets my vote.
All right, I think JJ's turn.
Oh,
It is
thank
JJ.
God. This is the one category I wanted more than any other.
This is the penultimate category.
Yes. Our penultimate category, bending over BAFTA. Which, because the name is so good, you clearly know what it means immediately, is our Oscar bait category to recognize the game that was the best at wanting to be awarded for things.
Well
It's kind of a
well
meta
said.
category,
Yes.
but I do like it. This one will probably return in Avengers
Endgame.
Infinity War. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, no, it's copyright restricted. All right. The nominees are...
JJ, you come back to the podcast, you immediately copyright strike us.
The nominees are Death Stranding, God of War, Deracine. I want to say up front,
Yeah.
probably my favorite suite of nominees that we've had for any category this episode.
Yeah. When I was deciding what to choose for this, I considered all of these almost in this exact order. And I remember going, should I do the one that I like and say, like, maybe this game was trying a bit too hard? Or should I just put God of War because I didn't like it that much? And so I went with God of War. I think God of War tried to do a whole bunch of things to distance itself from its own series past, really only clinging onto the things that would make like the narrative beat one single beat that it actually had with its past really ring true. And I think it was fairly successful at that, but I also felt like the entire story was so melodramatic it didn't feel like it was a game in the same series. And to some extent this is maybe less Oscar bait and more like clickbait, where people were like, I'll buy that because it's a God of War game, even though it clearly wasn't a God of War game.
Yeah, I considered God of War as well. I nominated Death Stranding. I came down to the two of those, and what made me lean Death Stranding was I thought about God of War, and I'm like, it really, really feels like a game that wants to be liked. Like, it definitely deserves its nomination. But I feel like, so I thought about the Oscar bait comparison, and I feel like God of War is trying more to be liked by everyone. It's more like wants to be the Avengers of video games,
Right.
and it's less like wants to be like a heady, more like experimental, like the kind of thing that would get nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah. Can Andy think of a single movie that has been nominated for Best Picture that is classified accurately as Oscar bait?
Hold on. Drive.
Good job.
Oh, that is a good choice,
You
actually.
win.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah, it's definitely not comparable to that if you want to like go cross medium
Yeah.
comparisons.
I do love that argument, frankly. I feel like in order to be the true embodiment of bending over BAFTA, you have to have a little bit of disdain for the average consumer. Like, you have to really not spend much or any time caring about what the average person would want and expect out of their experience. And God of War is such a good game overall that it cares about everything, including that experience. It goes, in some places, like with the RPG elements, too far to accommodate what the average person would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have gone for and selected a game that clearly had aspirations to be awarded, but I think the kind of awards that it expected to receive were the Game Awards, not BAFTA.
Right. That's fair. I want to hear about Deracine.
Deracine gives absolutely no shit about you, the human being, and expects you to come to it every step of the way. From the very platform it was chosen to embody, probably among the most exclusive these days outside of the N-Gage. 2 seconds on that one.
Yeah.
It has nothing that is marketable, save for like maybe pretty still images of flowers. That is not something that the kind of people who are interested in video games will mostly consider effective marketing.
And the most Oscar baity of things, a name. It is associated with From Software, who is a previously well-respected, well-known developer. Probably more so. I mean, Death Stranding obviously has the exact same thing, but like,
Yeah, maybe I just always want to jerk off From Software too much, but it feels more genuine than that to me. Like, Deracine doesn't feel like it's waving its arms for, like, consider us for an award.
I don't think that should be the part of the necessary criteria for Oscar bait. Maybe this is a conversation we should have had before.
I mean, that I'll accept that.
I think
mean,
you can be
that's how you made your decision.
I think you can be completely genuine in your belief that you are better than the average person and know better than them, and this is real art.
I feel like I don't get that vibe from the game.
Why? It's a good game. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
I think
that.
The fact, especially that it's for VR, like I feel like they knew a lot of people probably weren't gonna play it, and it feels more like experimental. It doesn't feel like it's gunning to be like this great, interesting thing. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't.
Then why is it set in like a British children's foster home?
I couldn't tell you.
it's because of the fairy tale thing.
Yeah.
Like, for being like very descriptive about it, I think the reason for its setting and everything was just to have an appropriate time and place for the existence of the fairies and their associated tales to like come up and be believed naturally by human beings.
That's a very good answer, Chad. Good job.
But I'm not saying that disqualifies it from being Oscar bait.
Because like I can imagine like a movie version of this that's super Oscar baity.
Yeah.
But like I feel like here it just doesn't come off to me that way. It feels more like, I don't know, I said genuine.
Why do you think Death Stranding is Oscar bait?
Death Stranding, the casting of like real people in it, I think is kind of trying to like push it for more legitimacy. Like, look at these like Hollywood actors in the game. Like Hideo Kojima has always had that more cinematic angle to his games, where it feels like he is kind of trying to push games into like a more artistic, like, this is going to go over your head kind of a thing. And all of those things I think come out to bat in Death Stranding.
I have always gotten the sense from Kojima that the kind of thing he was aspiring to create cinematically, if he got the chance to direct the film he has clearly always wanted to make, would not be a heady movie like Drive, but would be Escape to New York with like crazy high tier sci-fi stuff in the background.
I don't know. Maybe it's a difference in perception of Kojima, but I feel like if he made a movie right now, it would be an Oscar baity movie.
Chad, input.
I don't think the Death Stranding is Oscar bait, and my primary reasoning for that is that I don't think that Kojima was thinking about that kind of a thing at all while making this game. I think that the game is too centered on his ideas that he's just had for years and hasn't been able to actually put into things, to the point where the game ends up being like a little bit overstuffed. I think that he wanted the game to stand out and be different, and potentially that qualifies it, but at the same time I don't think that it was the primary objective. But I don't really think it was I think the only game in this list where it was the primary objective was to get accolades was God of War.
I think, okay, here's an important distinction with Kojima. I think the games Kojima makes, the like platonic forms of video games his studio is going to be able to keep spitting out now, I don't think they're after validation. I think Kojima just already thinks he's awesome and doesn't care if you disagree.
But he still does things like that whole environmentalism speech and like was that for the first Metal Gear?
True, very true.
I just feel like though that kind of I don't, like that. It just feels self-important to me a little. I don't know, and it just kind of comes off to me in all his games that I've played. But that might be some preconceived notions bleeding in, but.
This is like our most interesting tension point that I think we've reached. Is whether
because like I don't want to shit on Death Stranding.
No.
Because I like it, but I also want to make my point.
Things can be Oscar
Welcome
bait.
to debating, people.
Things can be Oscar bait and good. We said this
That's
already.
true. That is true.
Yeah.
I'm standing by my original pick, given the field, I think.
I'm also standing by my original pick.
And so am I.
All right.
It's a draw.
A very worthy draw, frankly.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I will say that if any of these were movies, like if they just made a film that told the story of any of the three, I think that Deracine would be the one that most likely would have been an Oscar bait movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's because they would have like somehow managed to cast Meryl Streep in it. And now for our final category, as read by Andy.
Drum roll, please.
That's
Also fanfare. All right, yeah. As previously stated, this is Game of the Year, and this is just our favorite game, each of us, that we played this year. There's no winners. We just kind of say our piece.
But there are losers.
But there are losers, that's for sure. We say our piece on why we liked it. All right, so we got Silent Hill 2. I'm assuming that's Chad.
Big surprise.
Return of the Obra Dinn. And Psychonauts.
Do you want me to go in the same order we did last year or switch it up?
I don't remember.
You started last year.
I don't want to go first.
All right. I will go first because I feel like I have some splaining to do as to why Silent Hill 2 is the game that I chose. Really, like if we're being incredibly like by the numbers about it, my favorite game that we played this year is probably Katamari Damacy, but it's not what Game of the Year is about. It wasn't a game that I played this year and really enjoyed this year. Like when I played it, I had memories of my old days, but I kind of blazed through the game. I think it only took me like 4 or 5 hours to get through. And it was just like, it is my favorite game that we played this year. That has always been one of my favorite games. And the same applies to Psychonauts. And the same applies to, it might just be those ones. Hidden My Game by Mop. Easily in my top 10. But it was between, when I thought about it as Game of the Year, it was between this and Death Stranding for me. Death Stranding for being so out there and interesting that I wanted to just kind of get up here and just say some things in case you didn't want to listen to the previous episode. I just wanted to hammer home how much I enjoyed that game. But I went with Silent Hill 2 because while marred by the control experience that Andy brought up earlier, and the fact that it is kind of a dated game, and the fact that some of the voice acting is kind of terrible, taking all of that in combination, it is still a miraculous new experience for me that has existed forever and ever and has managed to hold up. We cheat pretty bad when it comes to Game of the Year because we're talking about games that could have existed forever. Like we could play Super Metroid and be like, Game of the Year, Super Metroid.
No. We cheat only in reference to other people's expectations when they hear the phrase.
Yeah,
we are very honest to our experience.
Yeah. Game of the Year for the podcast.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But I'm saying it is a cheat because people expect one thing and we give them a different thing.
That's why I said what it was up front.
But we are the Oscar bait of podcasts. If Oscar bait was also
the
like
award
fat
goes
and
to the
made fart
NOCLIP
jokes.
podcast.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue your thing.
Right. But yeah, in my mind, we kind of do that. And we could easily pick something that is just real good, and we just choose the thing that's real good. And Silent Hill really stands the test of time for the fact that I played it for the very first time in 2019 and fucking loved it. Like, thought it was real good. And, like, that's saying something. Like, Katamari I still like, but I played it for the first time in the early 2000s. And the fact that I still like it now is always going to be reflective of that first experience. Silent Hill 2 is a game that is a genre that I love, done in a way that I love, and it still works.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I almost picked it as well, despite having my gripes with the controls. Like, it is amazing how well everything comes together and how well it's held up.
JJ.
I was
RT.
starting.
I know.
I was gonna do it. All right. Look, I have jacked off Return of the Obra Dinn plenty, and it deserves as many more strokes as I can possibly give it with the time that it is presented here. They say that, like, true paradigm-shifting art is recognized by the sense that after it is gone, you feel like it was always there. Like, it's hard to conceive of a time before Star Wars, you know? It's hard to conceive of a time before the way superhero movies have, like, dominated current cinema. After playing Return of the Obra Dinn, I have that same sensation. Like, it's hard for me to believe that it took until now for someone to think of this kind of puzzle-solving idea. And though I don't know if this is the case yet, hope it to be equally as perpetual. This feels like I'm the at-home mom who just figured out what Sudoku was, right? This feels like a thing I want to integrate into my life forever if I can have enough content to do that going forward. It is unique. It is genius. It is beautiful. It is one of the best experiences I've had with a game, mechanically speaking, in a long time. And all of you should play it before listening to our podcast.
All right, and I picked Psychonauts. When I went through the list of games, because I didn't have like a standout favorite this year. I thought a lot of what we played was really good, but for me, nothing really stood out as great. And when I was looking through everything, Psychonauts jumped out at me because I think Psychonauts does a lot of the stuff that I really care about in games. It really spoke to me on that kind of level. Like, 3D platformers used to be really popular, and they kind of hit an oversaturation point, and everything was too similar to Mario 64, and they got stale, and people stopped buying them, and people stopped making them. But I feel like things like Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper were like just starting to push out into different directions at the end of like that console generation, like the PS2 era. And I feel like there's a lot of potential still for the 3D platformer genre, and I'd like to see it come back. Because, like, playing Psychonauts just really, like, reevaluated those feelings for me. Like, I really liked it, even though it is rough around the edges.
Excellent. Gentlemen, good year for games.
Yeah. I think that, like, if you combine our three takes on favorites, it's really just, like, it's three games of three different genres that are emblematic of the amount of open space that's still left in the genres that they have. Obra Dinn is a totally different take on a puzzle game. Psychonauts shows what a 3D platformer can do from like a narrative and character perspective. And Silent Hill 2, despite being old, is demonstrating that like the survival horror game doesn't need to really evolve to get where it needs to go. And so I think that's the takeaway. I think as we go from 2019 into 2020, we want to see where existing things can be pushed and where can new avenues be opened up.
Yeah, and what kind of things can be brought back.
That was my attempt at doing like a very austere outro. How'd we do?
Oh, we did so good, Chad. Oh, we're real good. We're real good at talking about video games. We're so good at it. Oh, Chad.
Well, in that case, thank us for listening to NoClip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, you're going to have the privilege of listening to us talk about The Legend of Zelda, A Link... Fuck me in the butt. Link's Awakening.
Wow,
The Legend of Zelda, fuck me in the butt, Link's Awakening.
Very daring.
Yeah.
With this one.
Next week, we're playing Chad's Sexual Awakening.
The remake of the Game Boy Classic.
As represented through a very awkward experience in the Oculus Rift.
Next time, we're going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Switch. I'm not going to go over what the game is about because we did that on the last episode that you would have already heard. But thanks for listening to NoClip for another year. I hope the award show format is not tired and shitty.
Oh no, we're way too good at all the things that we do and say for that to be true.
You're right.
Also, this is probably the first year where I actually felt like we're getting bigger. Like, we felt like we've gotten better. Not just on a podcast level, but on like other things than just the podcast level.
We as human beings have become better.
Yeah.
And also bigger, because we all had implants to make ourselves 8 feet tall.
Where would those go, Chad?
You extend your shins.
And they're bone springs.
Yeah.
References.
Oh, we're so good at podcasts.
If you know what episode the reference was from, put it in the Discord or something.
I'll give you Christmas food.
And JJ will send you Christmas food.
He had like a look on his face. If you get a package from him, don't open it.
Or at least definitely don't eat it.
And until you die of food poisoning, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com or on splattershot.pro. One more year of that at least.
Yes.
There you can find our Twitter account if you want to talk to us on there. The Discord that we've mentioned a couple of times, where hopefully there will be just a fevered debate about this year's picks going on.
Please do that.
Yes. Our YouTube, all of our old episodes, which you can listen to on Google Play, iTunes, and on YouTube itself, and the website. There's a player on there. I don't recommend it, but it does exist. You can click play on it.
Can it show you what the most recent episode is right on the homepage?
That is true. That's not even the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the inbuilt player that no one has ever used.
Yeah,
I've used it.
It's not great.
No, it's not super good.
I've used it though.
I mean, I've as well.
It played
for testing
sounds.
purposes.
It was cool.
Yeah.
I need something. I need like a drug.
I need like a glass of water, I think. Yeah.
I think water is my drug.
Yeah. Hydro homies.
Hydro homies.
H2O.
All right. Thanks
Just
for
say
listening.
no.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Smash the like button. Right.
Oh, yeah. Smash that like button.
Yeah, yes, do that.
Debate in the comments about how much you like smashing the like button.
The smashiest button this
Oh,
year.
there we go.
Oh.
The nominees are the like button,
the
subscribe button,
or that bell.
Nice.
Normally, I feel like it's a lot louder than this.
Yeah, it's because there's 2 splitters, I think, now.
Probably.
I don't understand why that would change things.
The audio pressure in the cord hose.
Oh yeah, the audio pressure in the cord hose. I forgot.
Yeah.
These cords are all filled with gelatin and nothing else.
It's sound water.